Local programming on WSRE is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you. The following program is a WSRE original presentation.
Hello, I'm Lloyd Patterson. World War II veterans. They used to drive tanks, dive in subs, and slog through the mud with their M1 rifles. Did 1,000 other things it takes to win a war. Well, today they move much slower as they board jets that take them to Washington, D.C. to see the memorial erected in their honor. We're reporting now on the second Emerald Coast Honor Flight to the nation's capital. 101 World War II veterans from Northwest Florida made that one-day journey to the only national memorial honoring the 16 million Americans who fought in the bloodiest war of them all. WSRE cameras witnessed the emotional events of that day in October, and so did the guests in our studio right now. Ron Peters of Fort Walton Beach was only an 18-year-old corporal in the Army Air Corps in the war. His job prepping B-29s for bombing runs. He rode in a bomber as it flew over the USS Missouri, where the Japanese were signing the peace treaty that ended the war. Sally Thaler of Niceville served in the Army Nurse Corps, a first lieutenant. She worked in the 1,000-bed military hospital in Hawaii. She arrived in December 1941, right after the Japanese sneak attack on Pearl Harbor. Louise Warkomsky of Niceville was also an Army nurse, a second lieutenant, served in Germany with the U.S. occupation forces just as the shooting stopped. Joe Lewis of Pensacola served aboard a submarine chaser as it protected and patrolled the U.S. East Coast. He was assigned to the engine crew, among the first African Americans to undergo training at the Great Lakes Naval Command. And the honor flights need volunteers who help every step of the trip. Joe Denman of Pensacola is a Vietnam vet. He served as a guardian on this honor flight. And Tom Rice of Okaloosa County served as a guardian. He also works on the Emerald Coast Honor Flight Board of Directors, which is seeking funds for future honor flights. We welcome all of you. We'll be visiting with our special guests in just a moment. Right now, let's take a look at the events from that wonderful and emotional day in October.
In October 2008, Emerald Coast Honor Flight hosted the second trip to Washington, D.C., escorting 101 World War II veterans from Florida's 1st Congressional District to our nation's capital. Honor Flight takes these local heroes on a one-day free visit to see the monument built in their honor, the World War II Memorial.
And it's been 63 years since we have ever been recognized. We all have been wandering around the states all this time, never getting together. But today, there's 100 of us together for this trip, and we're all so excited, you know.
They traveled close to 1,000 miles for this special journey, starting very early in the morning when the group departed from Pensacola.
I have a great-grandson in the Air Force who's going to be up there.
What does that mean to you?
Quite a bit. Great-grandson.
So are you excited?
Definitely.
Families said their final goodbyes, and the guardians took over their duties as chaperones and custodians.
We're approaching the Atlanta area. From here we'll fly over the Greenville-Spartanburg area and over Greensboro, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, and then the arrival into Washington.
While serving on the front lines during World War II, stationed far from home, mail call was a treasured time to learn news from the home front. On their journey to Washington, these World War II veterans were treated to a very special mail call.
Today, the letters from back home, from the loved ones at home, are actually letters from our school children in the local area that have been written to you and in a way of saying thanks and how much they care for you and what you have done for our country.
The welcome at the airport in Washington was a surprise for the veterans, a great show of respect for these heroes by total strangers. On hand to greet the veterans was a former Army nurse, a World War II veteran herself. The group boarded buses bound for the World War II Memorial. Also greeting the veterans was Congressman Jeff Miller, who spearheaded the efforts to establish Emerald Coast Honor Flight.
Are you guys about ready? We ready. What would you say if I was your bus driver?
The day was spent looking at the magnificence of the memorial, sharing war stories, and honoring those who gave their lives.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World War II Memorial, your memorial, appropriately placed right in the middle of the National Mall between the Lincoln Memorial and the U.S. Capitol, which is on the other side of the Washington Monument.
Some of the veterans' loved ones traveled many distances to Washington to meet them at the memorial.
My son, James, he came from Hawaii for this special day for me, and I'm so pleased. You know, he pushed me all the way around the memorial, and we got to the Mariana Islands, where I was there with the B-29, and that was where I was in the World War II 63 years ago.
Well, I'm just here to be with my dad. It's a big honor for him to be here today. It's been a long time coming, I think. They came back from the war, and I don't think there were any big celebrations, but now, this is a way to honor them.
That's my great-grandson who just got back from Baghdad. I'm proud of my family.
I think they're proud of you.
We are so proud.
I'm here to honor this man. It's my great-grandpa, and he did the World War II, and I'm doing the Iraq War.
The veterans were also welcomed by Earl Morse, the founder of the National Honor Flight Program.
World War II veterans are the most humble, most stoic, most appreciative, most patriotic people that walk the face of this earth. And for them to have waited 60 years to have a memorial and no way to get out here, that was something that we had to change.
Many of these men and women also served in the Korean and Vietnam Wars, so it was important for these veterans to see those memorials.
When were you in Korea?
I was all three of them. I was called back into active duty in 50.
That's what I'm telling you. The first year of Korea fought by you folks.
Yeah, I did World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. So.
Well, did you get it right the third time? You won't have nobody has to go. You don't have to go anywhere.
Active duty personnel stationed in Washington, D.C. volunteered to assist Emerald Coast Honor Flight's World War II veterans.
Why am I spending the day? Well, I don't think any of us would be here if it wasn't for these guys, because back in the 1940s when they faced tyranny over in Europe and in the Pacific Theater, they stood up for freedom and human decency and rights, an example to the world, that with our allies. So just to spend the day with them, hear their stories, show them the dedication and the honor they deserve.
It's been a wonderful day. I get a little emotional when I think about it. These people over, it's an honor to be into this group, and I appreciate every minute of it. I would have never seen the memorial. I could have never got here on my own, and it has been just wonderful.
At the end of the day, a group photograph was taken at the Iwo Jima Memorial as a remembrance of a very special journey.
Oh, it's the most awesome thing I've ever felt, really.
In 63 years, I never thought I'd have this opportunity, and I actually cried. I was so happy to come.
I think it's something special for all of us to be remembered this way.
Well, a little late in coming, but there it was, finally, their opportunity to see the memorial built in Washington, D.C. in their honor. And on our program right now, we have 4 of the veterans who made that trip, as well as 2 of the Guardians who made that trip. I'll turn to Ron Peters, our former Army Air Corps B-29 crewman who made that journey. Your impressions of the day?
Well, I'll tell you, I never expected anything like this when our ship landed in San Francisco Bay 63 years ago. It was about 10 o'clock at night. was kind of dark and dismal, and we landed into a big warehouse, and there were many people there moving things around. We got on trains and going back to our hometown. That's what about all it amounted to. But this memorial that we've seen on the day that we went to Washington, D.C. was outstanding, and I think it was never did we expect that would have this honor to be recognized. All these years that I've lived, never did I dream that I would be recognized, and to get on this flight was just wonderful.
It's amazing that you say that, because what's remarkable, it seems to me, is that it's taken so many years to get this memorial, and to be thanking the people who did so much to preserve the country. Let me turn to my second lieutenant nurse, Army nurse, Louise Warkowski of Niceville. Your memories of that day in Washington, visiting the memorial?
Well, I thought the memorial was beautiful, and the wall of stars was very impressive. But the thing that I liked the most was the Army nurse in her World War II uniform who came up and gave me a big hug.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah, it really was.
And that wasn't the uniform you wore in the hospital, though?
No, that was our dress uniform.
Okay, now we go to your superior officer, First Lieutenant Army Nurse, Sally Thaler of Niceville. Good to have you with us. Now, you were in Hawaii right after the Pearl Harbor attack. I'll go fast forward to October 2008. You finally see this memorial. What went through your head?
It's hard to describe. It was so wonderful, and I didn't ever dream of seeing something like this. It was just really awesome. I really enjoyed the day. Everyone was so nice to us, and it was a very worthwhile trip.
Thank you. Joe Lewis, how does this day compare to other days in your post-World War II career?
You know, to see this memorial in our honor was really remarkable. And when you look at the architectural and the historical displays, it's really phenomenal. And if you stand there and look at some of those displays, your mind kind of wanders back to those days when you were sacrificing and your life was in danger. But then it seemed like a spirit of pride come over, and you're just so proud that you were able to serve your country during a time of war.
Thanks.
It's really a tribute to us.
Tom Rice, you were a Guardian, you and Joe Denman. What experience did you take away from that day that really sticks with you?
Well, and you know, not to degrade anything our veterans are saying tonight, but I got to tell you, the Guardians come back with more than the vets did. This is such an experience for us that, you know, they cry, but we cry, and it's a joyful cry, because it is a wonderful thing to see after all these years. You know, many of the World War II vets were still in occupied countries at the end of World War II. We remember the parades. We see those old black and white films of, you know, the VE Day and VJ Day and the ticker tape parade down, you know, the Times Square. But many thousands, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, nurses, Navy personnel were still on duty. They didn't even get the ticker tape parade. So this is, you know, it's a doubly sweet thing that we reward them at this point in their lives of, you know, with this event.
What about you, Joe Denman? What did you take away from that day?
Well, I took away a renewed sense of pride in our nation, in our country, in our little town here, simply for putting this together. It was one of the smoothest operations that I have been on. These veterans who went to war for us and paved the way for us to be free today, for us to be able to do this, for them, it will remain a stellar memory with me.
And the neat thing about the honor flights in all the cases around the country is that the World War II veterans, the day is free for them. They've served, paid their price earlier. But the Guardians, the volunteers who go along and keep things sort of running smoothly, or trying to run things smoothly, they pay their own way. So donations to this organization are really put to good use. It's not coming out of tax money. We heard in the video we saw, the man who started organizing these things said that World War II veterans are the most humble, stoic, appreciative, and patriotic people in the country. Does that sound like, what do you think when you hear things like that? Ron?
Well, I think we're very grateful for that opinion, and we somehow, during these years of not doing many things that related to the service that we did, we realized that there are still people that think about what happened during that war and the things that we fought for. And the B-29s did an awful terrific job to end that war, and the bombing of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the signing of the peace terms, ending the war and gave peace to our country and to most of the world, and that was where we're all grateful for.
Joe Louis, what do you think when you hear those descriptions of your generation as being so humble and patriotic? Is it sort of in the nature of people who were bred back in the World War II generation, or have we lost that? You think we still have that?
Oh yes, I think so. You know, in serving during that time, we were humbled because of the outcome of the war, really. We gave up ourselves and sacrificed our lives, and because of the outcome, we're so appreciative of it, and we just feel so humble about it. Now, I must say, though, that in that lifetime, it was quite a struggle for all of us. And but we're just thankful that we were able to make some contribution to our country during a time of war and to preserve the peace and the freedom that we now enjoy.
Let me go back to World War II memories just very briefly. Sally Thaler, you were at Pearl, you were at the big hospital in Hawaii. You saw many men with terrible wounds come through, the Iwo Jima survivors. Do you still have memories? Are those days still in your...
Yes, I do. And particulars of the times that some of us worked overtime to help these boys learn their way to a better life, but also to try to make them feel a little more at ease while they were there. Some of them were very badly injured, and it took quite a while to get them where they could go out on their own again.
Louise Warmkowski, any of the people, the young men that you saw, that you worked with as a nurse in Germany, any memories of that that stick with you?
You know, I had just finished nurses training in 1944, and I didn't get into the Army until 45. So the war was really over before I got out of basic training. So I was with the Army of Occupation in Germany. And
the casualties had been evacuated out of there by that time?
Yes, there wasn't anything by the time I got there.
Okay, war memories for Mr. Ron Peters. Anything sticking that you still think about every day that's from World War II?
Well, no, not really.
Okay.
Well, not too many either. We got occupied with other things in my life, but to be awakened with this honor flight, Emerald Coast honor flight, kind of brought back a lot of memories and made me think of what went on during those times and what people think about us today. And the honor and the respect that we get today is outstanding. And the things that impressed me the most were the World War II Memorial, seeing the area where I was involved in, the Mariana Islands, Saipan, Tinian, and where the B-29s left from that territory. And then the most impressive thing that I seen at return flight when we got out in the terminal, the Navy soldiers, 20 in each side, 40 the Navy personnel.
Now don't give away our surprise, because we're going to show that. We're going to show that in just a moment. But that is there's some great video of that. Joe Louis, any memories that you have of those war days that you still think about?
The most thing memorable to me was our duties along the coast. you know, the German had intelligence that, you know, we had intelligence that there were a lot of U-boats out there, and we were trying to find them, and our duty was to keep them from shelling our coast. But I think the Germans also had intelligence that we must have packed a terrible punch because they stayed away from us. We didn't see any at all.
Well, there were indeed U-boats out there, weren't there?
There were many of them out there, but they avoided us. But I'm just so happy to know that we did prevent them from accomplishing their goals.
Joe Denman, you're a Vietnam War veteran. You were from the same generation. We never really experienced the cohesiveness, the national cohesiveness that these veterans saw. Do you feel like they've got something that we don't because of that?
No, I feel very proud for them, you know, and very proud of our nation. I feel that we have the same thing. We have a wonderful memorial also, and we got to see that too.
Right, the Vietnam.
Yes,
the Vietnam
we do.
War. Tom Rice.
Well, you know, we have so many military here: Navy, Army, Air Force. You know, we have all the services represented in the in the 1st Congressional District. And I know a lot of these young folks that met us up in D.C., you know, the military, a lot of the enlisted and officers, and the ones that have helped us down here in the, in the district, they look to these people as role models. This past year, we had the Doolittle Raiders. 7 of the surviving Doolittle Raiders come and visit. And, you know, who turns out are the young military. And they take great pride in what these folks have done.
Now, there are 6,000 World War II vets estimated in the 1st Congressional District, Northwest Florida, basically. We've had a few hundred maybe go. Yes. How many of them do you think are going to be able to make this trip?
Our pledge as the board is that we will provide a trip to D.C. for every World War II vet that is able to go and wants to go. You know, we've tossed around different numbers of, you know, what does that mean out of the 6,000 or 7,000? Could be 1,500, could be 3,000, but, you know, our honorary chair, Congressman Jeff Miller, has, you know, we've talked about it at board meetings, and you know, his pledge and our pledge is that we will make this opportunity. We will not stop until every World War II vet has the opportunity to go and see this monument.
And to get to go, there are many ways that World War II veterans can contact the Congressman's office. There are websites that we're going to be showing in a moment, many different ways to get the information. And so if you know someone who's a World War II veteran and you think they would like to make this special honor flight trip to Washington, D.C., please stay tuned to get that information. Now, Ron Peters talked about the great closing ceremony to the day, the arrival back at Pensacola Airport. Let's take a look at that great scene.
A busy day in Washington, D.C. was followed with a thank you and a welcome home that most veterans had never experienced before. Hundreds of family members, friends, community members, and even perfect strangers gathered at the Pensacola Gulf Coast Regional Airport to welcome home Emerald Coast Honor Flight's 2nd group of World War II veterans. Citizens from all over the Gulf Coast waited eagerly to greet the veterans and thank them for their service to our country.
President, hop! Order, hop! Welcome home, hero! Congratulations on a job well done! Hoorah! 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 Face! Forward! Hop! Hit! Listen up, airport! The back of the line didn't hear the cheers that the front of the line heard!
The crowd was emotional, filled with gratitude and excitement, a reaction vets say followed them throughout their journey to Washington.
Welcome back! Thanks for your service!
Hundreds of people, from generals to ordinary citizens, jammed the airport to cheer the veterans as they returned from their special journey. With an aging population, seeing younger generations give thanks and even follow in the veterans' footsteps was the homecoming of a lifetime.
What do we want to say to her?
It was an overwhelming and emotional homecoming for a group of veterans who, in the 6 decades since the war ended, had never received such accolades.
It meant the world because he doesn't really talk too much about the war and his service and the stories I do hear. It's quite, moving, but I'm just so glad he got to go. I'm proud of him.
Oh, I'm just so proud to know that we were able to serve our country in a time of war, to preserve the peace and the freedom that we now enjoy.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. It's just awesome that you folks would do this for us, because otherwise I would never have seen it, I know. And I'll never forget it.
The whole dream. It's a dream. It's a dream. Still is. Everything today is a dream.
At the end of the day, when all the veterans get back on their plane and they're flying home and the sun has set, every veteran on that plane has a personal, intimate knowledge of how loved, how cherished, how revered they are by this nation.
What a day in October for the veterans, and thanks to the Emerald Coast Honor Flight program, with more veterans will be getting to go to Washington, D.C. to repeat that experience. Thank our guests for being with us tonight. If you'd like more information about the Honor Flight program, you can connect through WSRE.org, EmeraldCoastHonorFlight.com, or there's the World War II Memorial that you can also check on. Those will take you to the places you need to be to get more information, to get your relatives signed up, everything you need. Thank you for watching.